Hey everyone, welcome to the Mighty Books Podcast, where we sit down and chat with mighty authors about their books, message, writing successes, struggles, and other relevant authorship topics. I'm your host, Ryan M. Oliver, author of the Beasts of Men and Gods series. Now let's get started on today's chat. This week's featured author is Ann Peters. Ann Peters is an author, speaker, and healing coach. She has devoted 35 years to her own healing process, starting and stopping several times along the way until she found what worked for her. Next, she spent a year or so writing this book while working with her mentor. Using her own and other people's experiences to write this book, Ann's purpose is to help others to heal from their own abuse. She is passionate about the subject and wants to help as many people as possible. Hello again, and welcome to another episode of the Mighty Books Podcast. Today with me, we have Ann Peters. Ann, how are you doing today?
Really good. Fantastic.
Awesome. I love hearing that. So we're here to talk about your book. Please let everyone know what the title of your book is.
It is Finding Your Hope, Restoring Peace in Life After Sexual Abuse.
So it already sounds like the title is pretty obvious of what it is about. But can you go into what inspired you to write your story or this story?
Multiple things. It was kind of a progressive thing. I have my own story with sexual abuse, so that's included in there. And I took a really long time for my healing process. So I talk about that in there. And I have actually done a little research on celebrities and other people that have publicly talked about their abuse experiences and how they got over it, and then some ordinary people that I know that I've interviewed. They're in the book as well.
Yeah, I saw that when I was when going through and reading some of the chapters. How many people did you interview for this book?
I interviewed a couple of people.
Okay.
Just really two others. Yeah. I needed to put more ordinary people in there. Ordinary people, just like myself, you and I. I didn't want it to be all about me, and I didn't necessarily want it to be all about the celebrities that I discovered that had past similar to mine.
Mm-hmm. No, that's good though. I mean, keeping the person who's going to read your book, and especially on a topic like this, is not going to be someone who's, not going to be necessarily Oprah. It's going to be someone who someone who happens to be around the market where you're selling your art and other wonderful things, and sees this and picks it up to take an interest in, and then dives into that.
Yeah, and matter of fact, some of the people have bought it for other people that they knew.
Okay. Other people helping others is always what we like to see. So your book has been out for how long now? Pretty recent.
Yes, since January.
Oh, okay.
Year.
Okay, awesome. What is it? August, almost September. So yeah, almost going on 9 months. That's awesome. What I know it's only been 9 months, but what feedback have you gotten so far?
I have some ladies in the church that bought my book, and they absolutely loved it. Thought it was a lot of useful information and a very refreshing perspective. So
I like it. It. Yeah, you want to keep. I mean, obviously, it's to help people out, but to keep them engaged. That's kind of the whole point of reading. If it's a boring read, it could be the most exciting topic or the most controversial topic, or really any topic. And if it's just reading like warm milk, it's just not going to go anywhere. You know what I mean?
One of those ladies too is going to give her copy of the book to her daughters too. Yeah, people are coming forward and talking about their stories. So once they know I had the book.
I've heard that people in this kind of situation who experience abuse, sexual abuse, really any kind of abuse, who have endured anything like this, once one person speaks out, others do too. Just kind of like that domino effect, which is a good thing. You need, if you're bottling up too long, it's gonna eat you alive.
Oh, very much so. Yeah. Matter of fact, one of the other inspirations was in the news, the Metoo Movement, and a lot of people were coming forward publicly, and they're being interviewed on TV and whatnot. And I go, wow. So I had to. It was kind of a calling.
So it takes a lot of courage to escape an abusive situation. So how does someone in this situation get help if they're not quite, wanting to get out of it yet, or not sure how to get out of it yet?
Well, a lot of people I've talked to, they were already out of the situation, but never really went about their own healing. They're like maybe abused as children, and some
Oh,
of
okay.
the celebrities that I mentioned in my book were abused as children, so they had to wait till they were a certain age to literally leave home or wherever the abuse was happening. And they've kept it bottled up for so many years, like it
Yeah.
was with myself. It wasn't until I was an older adult before I really started working on it.
Yeah, and it doesn't help too that kids, when usually they're telling stories or they're saying something that's happened to them, they're not always taken seriously. It's like, oh, it's just a kid, they're making stories up. Like, oh, that didn't really happen. They don't believe that's going to happen. And unfortunately, I don't know what the percentages are, but working in the schools that I used to work in years ago, unfortunately, if a kid was talking about it, it had either happened to them or they had heard it from a family member.
Hmm.
Something was going on.
Yeah, kids don't generally make that kind of stuff up.
No,
And sometimes, in some cases, they are threatened into silence by that family member, the abuser, whoever.
but I mean, again, it's books like these that are out there for people to pick up and help start the healing process.
Started mine, there were very few books out there. So I struggled to find ones that were really relevant to my experience. And I only came up with like one. And I talk about them in my book, and I have a list of references. So it's there.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so if people are wanting to pick up your book and they just want more reading material and has a bunch of other books or several books listed that you can dive into and learn about, which is great. So in your book, it talks about counseling versus therapy.
Yes.
People use that at least in my opinion, people use that synonymously with each other. What would you say the difference between counseling and therapy are?
Well, in my experience, a counselor is like a licensed counselor, and they have a certificate. They haven't gone through the same schooling as, say, a doctor, whereas a good therapist is either a psychologist, psychiatrist, one or the other. The psychologist cannot prescribe, but the psychiatrist can. So yeah, is a huge difference to me in my experience. So the counselors don't have as much background as the therapists or psychologists, psychiatrists do. When I found the right person, turned out to be a psychologist, great background, great techniques in helping you heal.
Okay, so a therapist then.
I would consider a therapist,
Okay,
yes.
okay. Well, that's good to know. So counselor is more, I don't know what we call that, like a not necessarily a
Yeah, just
softer science or softer approach, and then therapist is more rigid because they actually have the background and the breadth of knowledge to help you out. They've got experience.
and an education behind
Okay,
it, more of an education behind it than a regular counselor would.
okay,
Counselor could just simply be like even a pastor can be a
okay,
counselor,
okay,
something to that level.
okay. Well, that's cool. So both seem like they could be helpful, but in your opinion, you found that helps you that a therapist or a licensed psychologist definitely knew they got you on not to say the right track, but they got you moving.
Right. Yeah, the counselor can only do so much, but if you have issues beyond that, the psychologist or psychiatrist, therapist type person, I think, is much better.
Cool. So, also in your book, I noticed a real bold statement of it's not your fault. It's
Oh
not the
yeah,
victim's fault. They didn't ask for this. They weren't
no.
advertising on a billboard anywhere to be abused. How does someone change their inner narrative about having being their fault?
It takes a lot of time, but in my case, it took a therapy treatment called EMDR, eye movement reprocessing and desensitization. Sorry, sometimes I can't say all those words all at once.
I do that all the time.
I talk about that a little bit in the book, and you can even Google that and get much more information than I can talk about in an interview right now. But
Sure.
it turns out that works really well. I don't know. It works with the mechanics in your brain and your physiology. I really don't know. It's either worked with eye movement, or in my case, the eye thing made me crazy. He was tapping on my hands, either
Huh.
my right hand or my left hand.
So would you mind going and kind of like explaining like how that session went? Like what was that like for you to go through that?
Well, it's been a while since I've been in the therapy session. So
Sure.
it's like we were talking, having a conversation. I would talk about something traumatic and he would help me come up with a better thought process about it,
Okay, so just a different perspective.
a different perspective of
Oh,
it.
okay.
And it says anytime he told me anytime that the thought came to me as it's my fault, this, that, I had to stop and think, really, was it? No, it wasn't.
Hmm.
Somebody did something to me,
Kind of throw it back at you and go rethink this because it's
rethink this. It taught me
okay.
to stop and think about my thoughts and where they were coming from. Was it coming from a negative thing? And I would sit here and I would just play with the thought until I change it to something more positive, I guess.
Purposely positive.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
okay. It's kind of like I've heard of people trying to relearn to run, if that makes any sense. Like
Sure
family
does.
members, friends who well while they're running, they like to run, it hurts their legs or whatever in some fashion. It's actually bad for them. And their doctor's saying you're running wrong. And of course, I look at them like, "What are you talking about? I'm running wrong. Here's how your feet are supposed to land on the pavement." And so it's a weird thing to think about. You have to just think different. Like, what do you mean think different? That's how I think. How can I think differently? It's like telling someone to chew differently. It just, it's or blink differently. It doesn't make sense. But when they thought about it and actually purposely moved their foot in the way that the doctor said to do, the pain would go away and they were able to run better, less soreness, fitter, better. You know what I mean? It sounds similar to that. Just that repeated practice.
Exactly. Exactly. It's reprocessing the way you think.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. And so with dealing with becoming so changing the narrative on it was not your fault. Also looking back on your childhood, embracing your inner child, because that's another huge chapter in the book. What does that look like to somebody who's trying to embrace their inner child? How do they start that?
Well, I refer back to John Bradshaw's Reclaiming Your Inner Child. I don't know. He's renamed the book since I've read it. It was a very good book for me. I think I saw some PBS specials on him. It's like becoming your own best friend or parenting yourself. You kind of go back in time, but then you're there to tell your younger self that, it's not your fault. Okay, you're going to grow up to do great things, stuff like that.
More good positive talk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You gotta, you've been in a negative situation for so long, you have to pay that back in a more positive way to kind of bring back your balance.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It doesn't take much negativity to throw people off. It takes a lot more positivity to knock out negativity. So I can see
yes.
how, embracing a time in your life where when we were kids, we're so positive. We're wanting things to be such a way. We're very hopeful as children. So getting back in touch with it definitely seems like the right way to go about it. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you actually have to be a child once in a while and then experience positive things as a child would, and then you have new memories to look back on.
Kind of shed that stigma of, well, we're adults, we're grown, but we can still have fun, childlike fun.
Yeah, I always enjoyed the time when my children were small because
Mm-hmm.
I could be a kid with them. And
Yeah.
then now I have grandchildren, so it's always fun to do things with them and feel that childlike vibe and quality that you get when you're around them.
Is it easier, do you think, to help embrace your inner child when there's other children around versus when it's just adults?
Well, no, I mean, I do it at different times for different reasons. Like in my healing process, I would do it in private because you never know when really sad feeling might come up and you start crying again for no reason. It happens during that, especially when I was writing the book too. Looking back, I grabbed my workbooks from when I was healing and looked back to some of the stuff I wrote, and I was just amazed at how far I've come. What I
Yeah.
was thinking, my thoughts patterns, and what I wrote down was like, boy, I was messed up there for a while.
That self-awareness is important.
So I can see how much I've grown in the decades it took me to heal. And that's another reason why I wrote the book. I don't want it to take decades for someone else to heal. I want to
Yeah.
direct them right to where they need to go.
It's a better starting off point, that's for sure.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Learning from others.
That's how people have survived so long, as we've learned from the generation before us, and so on and so forth. And hopefully we do better by it. We learn better, we fix the mistakes or fix the weirdnesses, and then can continue better on.
And that's why we write books, so we provide this information for others.
Fact. And it stays with us after we're gone, and someone else picks up, go, who's this person?
Exactly.
Oh, they wrote that 40 years ago. Wow.
Yeah, that's the one thing that lasts beyond us.
Yep. Our art. Was it our children and our art? I believe is what they say. Yeah, we have two things behind: our children and our art. So it sounds like with the writing the book was a therapeutic project for you.
Yeah, it was like coming full circle, because it took me reading other people's books, and now I was able to write my own.
Yeah.
Time to give back.
Time to give back. Yeah. I find giving back is probably one of the better, a great medium to healing yourself is helping others, and then it helps you in the long run too. And
you never know from there the context that they know. They can keep paying it forward.
Again, just that constant positivity, and it's infectious in a good way.
Definitely.
Yeah. Definitely. In a good way. So it's a good, it actually brings me to my next question. So with doing projects like writing your book and even speaking now, which is really great, releasing those emotions, those negative emotions. We have positive, negative ways we can do that. It's obvious we need to release the negative ones. Otherwise, like I said, it just eats us alive like a cancer. Right. How do you do that without self-destructing? How do you do that without causing more harm to others? Like, did it take a lot of effort from you to just focus on the positive ways to release the emotions?
Yeah, it's definitely an effort. I mean, you can easily get destructive and start running off and breaking things, but take that energy and do something positive. One time I had so much negative energy I had to release. I mean, it had nothing to do with my past. It was more of the present at the time, but this is a good example. I needed a good corral for the horse I had at the time. This was years ago when I had the energy and strength to do it. I had a manual post hole digger, so I just started taking my anger out on the dirt, building post holes. And I mean, one afternoon, I think I dug enough post holes to build this small corral for my horse. Exercise, go to a gym, take up kickboxing, something like that. That's a more positive way to release negative energy. And you find when you're done with something like that, there's what they call the runner's high, the dopamine or whatever you get after you're done. It's usually very relaxing and refreshing. A lot of different things too. It's different for everyone though. Somebody might prefer a meditation, where if they don't have the physical abilities to do something like that, maybe just a yoga or meditation. Something that usually refocuses your brain.
It's all situational, all depends on you.
Exactly. Yeah. And I would not recommend posting something on Facebook, because then you'll be tempted to go back and read the comments, and that could just make it worse. Take it from experience. So I'm careful now what I post. It can become a firestorm.
Yeah, people can be kind of harsh with some of that, especially they took it out of context, or it just, social media has its bonuses, but it also has its downsides, and I would say that's a downside. People use it as a means of release, and they should not, because it's not meant to be judged. It's just meant to be. It's a venting session. If you need to vent, what I would do sometimes is open up a Word document and just write out whatever you're thinking, feeling, whatever. And then at the end of it, maybe reread it, go over it, and you're like, you know what? Control, delete, get rid of it. It's gone.
Exactly.
Especially
and that's if you're going to send an email to someone because you're in anger or whatever, just type it out and like you said, wait, and then reread it and go, well, it's a good thing I didn't send that, because they might have taken it the wrong way.
Yeah. Or they took it exactly the way you wanted them to take it.
Maybe, which may not be a good thing. Never lash out in anger. Always take a few breaths and think about it.
Yep. When emotions are high,
purchases, think about it.
Yeah. When emotions are high, logic is low. So
yes,
try to take a minute, just take a breather, step back, and then go from there. Go from there. So all of this, the whole point of the book, at least what it seemed like, is to heal yourself, to be able to move beyond the trauma you experienced, but also probably the hardest topic is forgiveness.
Yes. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, when I reread my chapter, I go, I didn't talk enough about it.
Yeah.
So there is a second edition in that will be in the works sometime, but I don't know when. I mean, I just want to promote this book first. And then eventually I want to talk more about forgiveness, but which
Mhm.
I plan on doing with my speaking events, which I've had two so far. I mean, they weren't paid, but I needed the practice
Yep.
and the exposure that I got. So, and the first one was with my ladies group at the church. So, and that turned out to be very positive because some people came forward with some very positive compliments on how I did and stuff. And other
That's
people have opened up. So who
yeah.
knows what might happen in the future?
Yeah, and I hear more and more from people who've written books similar to yours about healing traumas and overcoming obstacles, and who have gone and spoken to groups or parties or whatnot, and they get pretty much all exclusive positive feedback. And sometimes they even get stories about what happened to them. It just helps you out, reassures you that, yeah, I did the right thing by writing this, by talking about it, by opening up. We want to open a better dialogue to hopefully encourage a healing. Hopefully stuff like this just stops happening. That'd be, in a perfect world, that's what happens.
Yes, idealistically.
Yeah, idealistically, it's exactly what we want to happen. Reality is a different story, sadly, but we
Hmm.
have people who are able to listen, open up, and have a conversation about it, and that right there is leaps and bounds beyond just keeping it quiet.
For sure. I'm
Yeah.
sure with what I do, then more people will be willing to come forward and share their story
Hmm.
and move forward.
Yeah, that's the 100% hope there. But so in the book you did talked about like what does a person have to do to prepare to finally ready to forgive themselves and their transgressors? What do they have to do to prepare for something like that?
Well, for me, it took a really, really long time. It's tough. I'm sure it's different for everybody. Not everybody's comfortable with forgiving, and I don't think everybody does. I mean, I can tell out there. I mean, bringing it back to Facebook, I've seen posts and it's obvious. I mean, I don't get out much personally since COVID and whatnot, so it's hard to do face-to-face reactions, except for at the markets. But those people are all happy to come into the market, and only a fraction of them will talk about their experiences. And those that do, it's like I was there and I made them comfortable enough to come forward and give a little bit of about their life, and I'm sure the rest is still hidden.
Oh
I
yeah.
call it the iceberg effect. We only show 10% to the world. 90% of it's still hidden.
I mean, it's also an extremely personal subject. Having to opening up to a therapist, let alone someone they just met, or even someone they've known forever. All of that's hard.
Very, very hard. It takes a lot of time. It's like peeling an onion. There are so many layers. So it's everybody does it at their own speed. It's when someone in their mind is comfortable enough to do
Yeah.
it. And it's hard to tell how long that's going to take.
Yeah. There's no formula.
Really, exactly. There's no formula. That's such a personal thing. You have to actually be that person to know.
Yeah.
So since I can't read minds, I can only say and talk about what worked for me.
So you can only speak from your own experience. And the beautiful part of your book is that, like you said, you're doing a second revision, which is awesome, or eventually do a second revision. You can
Yeah,
add more stories and more examples, which hopefully, if just like having multiple teachers, you're
right.
going to have one of those teachers going to get to you and be able to speak your language. Not every story is going to hit hard, but if you have enough stories in there, you have enough examples, one, maybe more, is going
Exactly.
to affect somebody personally, that maybe they take action.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
So as more people, I get a chance to talk to more people, perhaps get a coaching career going.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll have permission from one of them to include their story
Yeah.
in the second edition.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. So with being an author, you're also an artist.
Yes.
How long you been an artist for?
Well, I would say all my life, or as
Yeah.
soon as I could hold a pencil or a paintbrush. I've been scribbling since I was 5, or at least as long as I can remember. As long as I keep doing art and finding new mediums, I won't stop that. That's been my passion for forever.
And I'm assuming that that's helped you in your life, just in general. I mean, on day to day.
Even one counselor I had suggest I draw about some of my emotions. So I have this private collection of art from, well, I call it therapy art. which is another thing I'd be interested in doing is art therapy, but I think you have to be certified in some way for that. I don't know. I'll look into that in the future, but yeah, I have a private collection of really shocking sort of images that I created out of emotions. So when
Yeah.
I found those again, because I had stashed those away for years, I came back and I opened up and looked and I go, yeah, I was pretty messed up for a while. So,
Well, I mean, you have to face your demons. You have to face the bad so you can get over it. Get over it seems like such a easy term to say, that you can wrestle over it, and then try to continue to live your life to any kind of normalcy.
right. You got to tame your own demons to move forward.
Exactly. You got to muzzle those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to do.
It certainly is. Sometimes they come back in later years and they're whispering in your ear, yeah, you got to, you got to go back to this time and try that, that those alcoholic drinks weren't so bad. Come on.
Uh-huh.
No. No,
Yeah,
I don't drown in the alcohol anymore.
that's good. That's great. Well, maybe you've heard it before. We have two wolves inside of us, or two animals inside of us. The light wolf and the dark wolf. Which wolf are you going to feed? Whichever one gets the strongest is the one you're feeding the most.
Exactly.
So feed the good one. Feed the one that's got good habits.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and again, that's just you wrestling with your own stuff and how you process, and it's all personal. It
It's
is
not
all
to
personal.
say that people don't slip and fall every once in a while,
Yeah.
but it's going to happen, and it's okay. If it happens, you just got to pick yourself back up and
Yep.
find the correct path again and move on.
Exactly. Exactly. It's how many times you get back up. Because as soon as you don't get up that other time,
Yeah, then you're done.
then you're
Yeah.
done. So you said you will want to be doing coaching here soon. You're hoping to
Yes.
start your own coaching practice.
Anyone who contacts me and asks me about that, yes, I'm willing to work with them.
Do you have a whole system planned out, or is it more kind of as you're just chit chatting with them, or how is that going to look? I don't know if you've got it developed yet, but
Actually, no, I figure, it took me a really long time and I jumped around and was on and off in the healing process for many years. I would work with someone and just find out what they need. I mean, personality types, whatever. I might start with that, charting a personality type, like the Myers-Briggs. I don't know if you're familiar with Myers-Briggs.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, because that's one of the first things that I did with a counselor is a Myers-Briggs test. I would start with that. I mean, and then I'd personalize it to them, whatever their needs is, because not everybody's got the same experience. I mean, exact same experience.
Yeah.
There will be nuances, and so I would work with what their past was like, what their learning style might be like, and what they're comfortable with, and their energy levels. I mean, I myself have low energy levels, so I have to worry about that. I mean, I recently saw an article about Richard Simmons, the exercise guru guy, and his reasons for kind of going out of the public eye. And I go, well, that makes perfect sense because he was trying to help so many others. He was literally taking on their energies and stuff. That can wipe you out. I had
Yes.
friends, and I still have friends. Some are pretty needy, and I try to help everybody out too. But I got to know my boundaries and my energy levels, and when I have to say, okay, I can't do anymore. I mean, I love you, but I can't help you anymore right now.
That is also very hard. Saying no to helping is so hard for people. I mean, I had that problem for a while, and it's not that you don't want to help. It's that I've got things I have to take care of for me or for whatever
Right.
I'm dealing with, and if you explain that to people, if they're good family, good friends, they'll understand that, and they won't dangle that up for you as in a judgmental way. And if they do, then they're probably not really good for you to have in your life.
That's for sure. I mean, I've had friends come and go in my life, and I learned finally, it's not easy, especially when you've had a past and you haven't had much good examples of what's good for you. So it's taken a while, but I've had to cut off people. I can't continue in that crowd. It's not good for me anymore.
If you love them, let them go. Sometimes it's how it's got to go.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, just a real roundabout, in a real roundabout way, what do you want people to learn from your book?
Well, first and foremost, like we talked about already, if you've had that kind of experience, it's not your fault. It's okay to take your time. And when it comes to finding the right help, like either counselor or therapist, shop around like you would a car. It's got to be the right fit. You got to be comfortable enough with this person to literally spill your whole guts out to them. Take your time and don't forget self care. I mean, you may be working hard, reading everything you can to try to understand yourself. To take a moment every once in a while and step back and do nothing. I mean, literally do nothing. Help reset your brain. Sometimes you feel guilty about that because you're doing nothing and you're not being very productive. But sometimes when you do rest and you sit back and really believe me, it's hard to turn off the brain. I have trouble turning off my brain, especially when I want to sleep. But if you don't, you're going to feel overwhelmed at some point. And people going through this kind of healing process when they're, I want to heal, I want to heal, I want to heal, they're energetic at first, but then there comes a point where you're going to feel overwhelmed. You just got to stop for a moment, set it aside.
Almost like erosion over a while. It just the rock gets worn down.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes all you want to do is sleep. So that's when you know that you got to take time and rest and do self-care.
Yeah. That is a very hard lesson to learn. I know for especially younger folks who are just go-getters and want to get things done and I'm going to just jump over this hurdle next and I'll be fine. It doesn't always work like that. You need
it doesn't.
No, you just take it day by day, problem by problem. And one step might take you 30 seconds. The next step might take you 30 years. We don't really know how long it's going to take you.
Exactly.
And you're in for the long haul. Take a nap.
Mine was the 30 years one. Yes, you bet. I mean, it was a lot of inconsistencies. I should have probably been more consistent about it, but it took me a while to find the right person to help change my mindset.
It's all about, like I said, staying consistent, persevering through it, and then eventually you come out the other side and you're better for it. You're healed. You're healed. I'm not sure. Would you say the healing process is an ongoing process until the day you die, or is that just?
I'm sure it is for some, especially if it's been, because my story is not the most traumatic. I've interviewed one lady who had far more traumatic stuff happen to her. And she's bounced back great, and she's teaching like self-defense or weightlifting or something like that, which reminds me, one of the things I decided to do was learn self-defense, and then that led to a 13-year career in Taekwondo, so including 3 years of teaching it myself.
Oh, really?
Another form of
That's awesome.
Long before I decided to write the book. But
that's great.
Yeah,
I did a bunch of that myself when I was younger, and I need to get back into it because it was fun. It was fun, very therapeutic.
If nothing else, it was a fantastic form of exercise. Kept me in shape.
I need to get back because I am more like an oval than I should be, and I need to go back to. Yes. Anyway, I won't get into that.
You and me both. I need to find something else because after 2 ACL replacement surgeries on my right knee, 9 years apart, the doctors told me you got to find a different way. You can't do some of those Taekwondo maneuvers because it's just not.
It's a little hard on the body.
Yes.
Yeah, on them joints.
Yes.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Great form of exercise, but yes, it is.
It's very hard.
Yes. All right. So, what would you say to someone experiencing sexual abuse or really any abuse of any kind who may not feel ready to leave their situation?
So you're saying this is an adult?
Yes.
Okay, that's considered more of a domestic violence thing, but still sexual abuse still applies under the same title. Find someone they trust, talk about it. I would get out of it as soon as you can, especially on adult level, because you never know if that can lead to something more serious, even death. There's been a lot of that in the news too. So as soon as you can, find someone you trust, take only what you think is necessary, and get out fast. Because I have story, you probably read the one about my friend Carissa. So yeah, that story, that's a very powerful story. So I mean, this is your life. As soon as you possibly can, get out.
Now, so that'd be the advice for an adult. What about like a teenager, someone who's still in like school, middle school, high school, that kind of thing?
They have school counselors that they can talk to. about that. The school counselor can evaluate if they need more help further. Probably could evaluate whether it's in their home. They need to get that child out of the home.
Yeah.
But speak up. It's your body. It's your right. It's not your fault. Speak up as soon as you can. As soon as you feel comfortable and find someone you trust, speak up.
Yes.
The sooner the better. Then you can start your healing process instead of stuffing it and hiding it. And,
Great advice. Just get out of that situation and get safe, and then start your process, your healing process.
And it might be something that the police need to know about, because that perpetrator needs to be dealt with.
Yes, 100% agree. 100% agree. Okay, so very last question, probably the most important one of the interview, is where in the world can people find and buy a copy of your book?
They can go to findingyourhope.com. I have a secure way for them to purchase the book. Good. If they're local in the Kitsap County area, they can call me at 253-225-3380. We can meet up somewhere and they can save shipping costs and buy a book directly from me. And I do believe I'm also on Amazon, but I don't make any profit off of those books. But if they're really tight of money, you can probably get it there too as well.
I'd say give her a call, go have some coffee with her, and just have a good chat. She's fun to talk to. If anything, she's fun to talk to. She's got a lot of cool stuff about art and all sorts of neat things. So, and I want to talk to you more about martial arts now. So we'll probably have a conversation about that later.
Hey, yeah. And if you're still doing that children's book that you need illustrated, I'm still available for that. I still do illustrations. You are still in my mind. I have you on there. I just got to finish the darn thing. Get distracted. Okay. We get distracted. Life. Yeah, life happens. Life gets in the way sometimes. And that's okay. That's another thing I want to say. Life will get in the way. There'll be stumbling blocks. You just have to turn them into stepping stones and keep on going. I like that. That's a good metaphor too. So, Anne, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to meet up with me. This was a very nice conversation. Cool. Thank you. I've never been on a podcast before, so this is a great experience, and I'm looking forward to seeing your final result and all that. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. I'm glad. I'm really glad. So everyone out there, thank you for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next episode. Are you an author? Do you know someone who is? If so, then message me, Ryan Oliver, at ryanmoliver.com to set up a free appointment to discuss being showcased on the Mighty Books podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to the Mighty Books YouTube channel and share the link to this and more episodes with your friends and family. Thanks for listening. So long for now. Stay mighty and keep reading.